Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all of you. First of all, I have to thanks to all of you for persevering throughout the day and coming to these concluding remarks on the 2023 ASEAN Leadership and Partnership Forum on the theme ASEAN Matters, Center of Growth, Opportunities and Prosperity. I'm asked to give the concluding remarks on the first part, and I would have preferred to do it at the end when Dino, Patti, Djalal would have given his concluding remarks, so that I can really congratulate him for anchoring this in Jakarta, Indonesia, and flourishing the ASEAN spirit to help KSI and other coordinating agencies here to make this possible. But the order of the day is that I have to do my piece first. I could just say it has been a wonderful 2 days, and thank you, all of you, and all those who have helped and said, Dino will take over. But if I say that, that's it, Michael will say the next time you're not going to give any concluding remarks. And now, in all fairness, when this ASEAN Leadership and Partnership Forum was initiated some years back, we know that we are making a pioneering effort, and that pioneering effort year after year has kept on improving and contributing to discussions of points and views which are really what we call illuminating the frontiers, so that the governments, particularly the ASEAN leaders and the other ministerial meetings, will take note of. And in this regard, we had this year the Founder and Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, FPCI, Dr. Dino, Patti, Djalal, has been instrumental to anchor this. So first of all, we thank him with all our heart for the success. Now, when Tan Sri Michael took on the responsibility of getting a partner, he knew that he has to twist arms. And then we knew that yesterday night and today, Dito, he is very good at twisting the arms. And we had the governor of West Java, His Excellency Muhammad Rizwan Kamil, giving us a perspective of how governance is being held in his own West Java province, and taking that experience to the greater Indonesia in time to come. And we saw the second contribution from Dino is that when we had His Excellency Santiago Uno as the Minister for Tourism coming and addressing us again in a very, very illuminating way that captures the attention of the participants and the leaders present here, to say that Indonesia is providing that kind of a leadership that could be a viable contribution to the ASEAN fraternity and the ASEAN growth. So that being the essence and the apex of this forum, we have 3, or I should say 4 panel sessions, all very much discussed, and we had very, very eloquent and informed speakers with their own experience, sharing what is really relevant on the topics ranging from connectivity to digital transformation and also into the green aspects of the ASEAN economy. All these gives the impression that our efforts started with collaborating partners with KSI has been very, very good. And this year we are doing it in Indonesia. And once again, if I'm repeating, Dino has been the instrument behind to make this a success. And in an Indonesian way, I say thank you very much for all what you have done. And with that, I don't want to say I bid you all a good farewell and a good night, but that would be premature because Dino still has to make his concluding remarks and conclude the forum. So with that, I over to you, Moon, to invite His Excellency Dino to give his second part of the concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dino.
Thank you very much, and I want to express my appreciation to Tan Sri, Michael Yo, Tan Sri Majid, Pak Iqbal, and everybody who's been working hard from KSI and ASEAN Economic Club in making this event possible. You know, Tan Sri, is all the sessions well designed, right? And you chose very good speakers. I think one of my staff, Aisha, said, "Sir, did you choose the speakers?" I said, "No. It's all KSI and ASEAN Economic Club's work. So well done. I really benefited from the discussions. I recorded everything. You see that that small upper handphone, I recorded every conversations. And FPCI is going to help to produce video bits of the statements that were made, and we're going to put it on our social media so people can also know about this. Special thanks to Cindy, my staff, who is the LO for this project. But maybe by way of concluding observations, I want to mention a few things, right? One, I think we heard a lot about the geopolitics, being mentioned all throughout the sessions yesterday and today. I think we should recognize that, you know, we're going to be stuck with this geopolitical reality, the rivalries and competition. This is not, it's not going to end next year. It's not going to end in the short term. This is going to be a midterm to a long-term challenge for ASEAN, because, you know, the Cold War crumbled. Cold War ended because the Soviet Union crumbled, and with it, the Eastern Bloc crumbled. China is not going to crumble, right? So the pattern of US-China competition that we have now, this is going to be the salient point of international relations for quite some time. And it's not just US-China. Even if Russia leaves Ukraine tomorrow, the Russia-West rivalry and competition will remain there for a long time. Yeah. So we stuck with this, right? We stuck with this. And I think what ASEAN needs to do as we try to maintain our centrality, we need to be able to stand our ground, right? And we need to be able to push back when we need to. You know, what I'm saying is this. Look, during the Cambodian conflict, right? Cambodian conflict, ASEAN played a role in resolving it. How did we do it? We did it by taking our own independent method and approach to resolve it, even though we had to brush with the United States, which had their own interests and strategy. And even though we had to brush with China, who also had its own strategy and interests in the Cambodian conflict, right? So we were not afraid or reluctant to go our own way and challenge the United States and challenge China, who had their own interests, right? And that was when ASEAN was successful in helping to resolve the Cambodian conflict, right? So we need to do that again this time. Yeah, we're going to have competing interests, and as I said, it's going to be for long term or mid to long term. And ASEAN's ability to stand its ground, to know what it wants, and to develop its own strategy in the face of these rivalries will be very important to ASEAN's ability to maintain centrality. So that's one on the geopolitical side. To be honest, I don't think ASEAN has figured this out. If you look at the statement, the declarations, I don't think ASEAN has figured this out completely yet. Yeah, but it remains a work in progress. Secondly, I think from the discussions, my conclusion is on the economic side. There's going to be a lot of work done. Yeah, the opportunities are there, enormous, right? But we need to understand that we're now facing a really new world and new era. You know, I'm not saying it as a flowery in a flowery perspective, but look, in the 70s, ASEAN faced a world of globalization, right? And the big question then was about, you know, hey, can we get on to develop a manufacturing base in ASEAN and getting FDI? Yeah. Some ASEAN countries like Singapore and Malaysia were ahead. They caught this globalization win early, and they adopted the right policies. Indonesia adopted that policy a bit late, yeah, but eventually we did, right? But what we're seeing now with AI, with robotics, yeah, globalization 2.0, this is exponential world, right? I still can't imagine what kind of world will come out of this AI business, right? With ChatGPT, I just attended a conference in Holland about AI in military affairs, and they're all freaking out, you know, how AI is going to change military conduct, right? On the ethics side, and on the moral side, and also on the technology side, right? So this is going to be really a world in transition, right? So it's different than the world of the 70s, where the challenge was about globalization and the manufacturing and FDI, right? The world is going to be changing in a way that we don't understand yet, right? And where is ASEAN going to be in this, right? Where is ASEAN going to be this? What would be the ASEAN response, and how would ASEAN be able to harness this really enormous power of the new technologies that we have unfolding, right? I haven't even mentioned genomics yet, right? I was just reading a book recently. It used to take $1 billion to map the human genome, right? $1 billion, right? Precisely $900 million. Now it costs $100 from that $1 billion to $100, right? And think of the impact of all this technological development rapidly on the future of health and so on, right? So again, how is ASEAN going to address this world, right? This amazing world, right? And do our leaders understand this, right? Do our leaders understand it? And can our leaders come up with the right policies, right regulations that can make us extract the right benefits from this really tremendous development in technology, right? As I said, this is different than globalization of the 70s, right? This is very different. We're really facing a different kind of world, right? And we need to figure out how we're going to respond to it individually and also regionally as a country, right? I was very interested to hear about ASEAN is very good in coming up with meetings and workshops, yeah, but not very good in implementing the decisions, right? I think that was a constant theme. Very slow. Maybe we need to figure out why this is so. This is why I asked that question earlier. Name one functional cooperation that all of ASEAN have done and made an impact on the region and catapulted the content of that functional cooperation, right? It's kind of hard. If tourism, and I know the answer was tourism, then we say, well, then there's something wrong with it. What about industry? What about agriculture? What about education, right? If the answer after all these years ASEAN has grown, that there's only one functional cooperation when there's an impact is only tourism, then ASEAN has not fulfilled its promise, right? ASEAN has not fulfilled its promise. And what needs to be improved, right? Is the institutional capacity not right? Is the way ASEAN is organized not optimal enough for us to achieve those changes that we aspire to have? These are questions that we need to ask, right? And finally, I think a constant theme, and I was very glad to hear it, was on the people to people, right? I think what the ambassador from Philippines mentioned, that yes, there is a community, but it's a community only of think tanks, of diplomats, of certain NGOs, and this community has not spread itself widely on the 600 million people of ASEAN countries, right? That is very profound, right? We here is a community, right? Like-minded, we love ASEAN, we benefited from ASEAN, we are aware of what ASEAN has to offer, the history of ASEAN, right? But how do we make sure that this community, right, is scaled up so that the majority of ASEAN peoples understand what ASEAN is and how ASEAN is relevant to them? And we heard to be critical, right? And I think our diplomats and our leaders have really not thought through, when they talk about people-centered ASEAN, how do we make sure that people-to-people connections in ASEAN would be real? Yeah, I'm glad our Indonesian friend today talked about the QRIS, right? That is one innovation that I think would move the needle in the right directions, right? But we need obviously a lot more similar efforts across the board. Cindy there is directing the Southeast Asia Lecture Hall, right? We're trying to get universities across Southeast Asia to hear world-class lectures every 3 weeks, right? And so far we got how many? 50 universities in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, in each ASEAN countries. And we're struggling. We are struggling because apparently universities don't connect well across Southeast Asia. We got to knock on doors to invite them to join this project, and it's free, by the way, yeah, for them to hear these lectures every 3 weeks. Right? But it just goes to show you that we're only at the tip of the iceberg in terms of ensuring authentic people-to-people relationship, and we are not working hard enough to figure out how to get people-to-people relationship to the next level, yeah, to the next level. And as I said earlier, we also need a bottom-up process in ensuring that this would be happening, right? In fact, FPCI had, I don't know if Esther here or Esther has left. FPCI wants or still thinking about what if we hold an ASEAN People's Summit, right? Doesn't have to have the blessing or the direction of the Secretariat or of the ASEAN leaders, but you know, ASEAN civil societies, NGOs, and universities gathering and with a constructive spirit talking about, hey, what do we think about this Green Deal? What do you think about climate or net zero targets? What do you think about the crisis in Myanmar? And what do you think about this and that? And but finding out what do ASEAN people think, right? And giving that expression for the leaders to consider, you know, that would be an example of a bottom-up people-to-people relationship that would, in my view, give substance to ASEAN deliberation, right? Again, that's not happening. It was just an idea, but it just gives you an illustration on how to give substance to people-to-people relations. So with those comments, I would like to again say thank you to KSI and ASEAN Economic Club for their really hard work in organizing this very eye-opening, very constructive, very honest and high-quality discussions on issues that are important for ASEAN. And I know Laos is next. I don't know where the participant from Laos, but FPCI will be happy to be in Laos next year to continue this discussion. And I know that we have a more important agenda after this, which is enjoying nasi padang, right? At 7:30, right? And look forward to this. And again, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your cooperation. I hope you enjoy Jakarta, you enjoy Indonesia, and look forward to seeing you again. Yeah. Thank you very much.